Hi there everyone. This portrait behind Keith and I, this is Sir Arthur Schuster. There are so many portraits at the Royal Society, Keith. I probably would have ignored this one. We may never have done a video about it. Except James Hennessy, the man behind the camera, is obsessed with this portrait because he reckons that looks like his Uncle Pete. And because James always says, that looks like my Uncle Pete, Keith has now become obsessed with it.
Yep.
So today we're going to do a video about Sir Arthur Schuster. I don't know if he's interesting or not. I don't know what we're going to have to say about him. We're all in your hands, Keith.
Nice jaunty cigarette, nice blue studs on his shirt and blue tie. He looks like a really interesting guy, surely.
All right, well, this one's for you, Uncle Pete. Okay, so here we are. We have a bounty of material that Keith has brought up from the archives. Keith, one of the things we seem to be finding out about Schuster, and I saw this in the card catalogue as well, is he was very obsessed almost with solar eclipses. He writes letters about them. He travels all around the world to see them.
So in 1875, Schuster goes off to Siam.
Like Thailand area now, is it?
Yeah.
So he goes to see this eclipse. What's in this book here, Keith?
This is a set of press cuttings relating to the transit of Venus in 1874 and the eclipse in 1875.
Okay.
The electric telegraph was beginning to be put in place. Scientists could report what was going on as news, not just as a scientific paper. And I think if we turn the pages, we'll find a telegram from him reported in the press.
Oh, here we go. We have received the following telegrams from Dr. Schuster, Bangkok via Singapore. The English observers of the solar eclipse in Siam are remaining a few days at their station to take copies of photographs obtained. So he's like Johnny on the spot and he's reporting back to the papers. It did take him a few years, but he did eventually also write up his scientific report. We have that as well.
In the Philosophical Transactions?
Philosophical Transactions, of course, Journal of the Royal Society. So here we have pages of the scientific report of this eclipse in Siam. Here's the introduction. This is Schuster and also Lockyer,
Norman Lockyer,
who he travelled with. It is never an easy task to make out the plan of operations for the observation of a phenomenon so rare and of such short duration as a total solar eclipse. We must be careful on the one hand not to risk failure by the adoption of new and uncertain methods, and on the other hand we must bear in mind that the mere repetition of what has been done before does not justify any large expenditure of time and money. He's setting the scene there, isn't he? What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Look at this. This is some of the imagery that they took during the eclipse and sketches. We can see prominences there on the side of the sun that reveal themselves.
One of the things that they're very interested in is getting spectroscopic observations of the chemical composition of our own star, because the spectroscope was big news in astronomy at this point.
Here are some plates. 1875, and we're seeing images of it here. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm liking that one. Nice eclipse image.
So this is a little later. So this is the 1880s. He's gone back to his laboratory in Manchester. And here we have him looking at some discharge experiments, so sparking, electrical sparks being passed through gases.
1884. And then if we come along to the end here we go. We've got a mixture of things here. We've got a sketch literally on the back of a piece of Royal Astronomical Society letterhead.
You can see it here. So this is the photograph of that experiment.
Presumably this is mercury vapour, electricity going through it, and the ionisation of the vapour is showing
so it's a very transient phenomenon. He's interested in the glow effects and the darknesses between them. And he's giving instructions to the printmaker as well, because these wouldn't be reproduced as photographs, they'd probably be engraved. So he's just giving little sketches showing what he wanted the finished engraving to look like.
Oh, I like this too. Look, old letters with old stamps and all these personal papers.
So when the Phil Trans article was in press in 1878, Schuster was off to Colorado and Utah to see another eclipse there. So these are letters of Thomas Edward Thorpe.
So Thomas Edward Thorpe was a travel companion of Schuster to go and see this eclipse in America.
That's right.
So we get little snippets in these letters of what life was like on the road in the Wild West.
They have lots of adventures while they're travelling. So here's Schuster with Thorpe. They go to the theatre and they see the latest productions of the day. One of them was a lively version of Uncle Tom's Cabin, which is, hot off the press virtually. And they have a bit of a sing-song. Rock of Ages is one of the things they sing there in the theatre. So it's a packed evening programme with lots and lots of little plays, lots and lots of songs going on.
Right.
Here there's a break in the proceedings where he describes the Denver Theatre. So he says, the manager chose to consider us as distinguished Englishmen and invited us to his box, where we were duly visited by some of the leading ladies of the establishment. One of them seated herself on Schuster's knee and guessed she'd take an iced lemonade and a cigar, to which Schuster laughingly consented.
This is all above board here. This is just the actresses entertaining the...
Yeah, that's right. So, and just a nice little snapshot of life in the Wild West.
The funny thing is, though, the manager thought these were distinguished Englishmen. Wasn't Schuster German?
He was, yeah.
There you go.
There we are.
This is all his correspondence, because he went on to some pretty senior positions here at the Royal Society, didn't he?
He was secretary of the Royal Society. He acted as foreign secretary. When the international unions were being recreated after the First World War, he played a really significant role in that.
There are lots of letters here, lots of interesting ones with people all around the world, and I've found it really interesting just leafing through these. This one's just breaking the news to him that someone has died peacefully this morning. This is how you found out that people had died, with a telegram.
Right. And this is new technology, of course. This is the kind of email of its day.
Now, as we go along, we start finding some correspondence with Ernest Rutherford. Now, Rutherford, this is a titan of science, and he's obviously quite close with Schuster. Here we have a letter written by Rutherford, and attached to it, he has this, which is quite interesting. He has a spectrum of radium emanation. Radium presumably was a bit of a new element on the scene, and they were learning more about it, and this is the real deal. Let's finish with this one. This is Rutherford writing to Schuster. Dear Schuster, I thanked you unofficially at our last meeting for your gift of the 4 salt spoons to the Royal Society. I must now write to you officially to say that the officers very much appreciate your thought in presenting these spoons with such a unique scientific history for their use. Yours very sincerely, Ernest Rutherford. So, in our next episode...
We don't have them, Brady.
I've already checked. I had a look as well. I don't think the spoons are still here, so this home may not have been as permanent.
It doesn't seem so, no. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. How often do you go through documents at the Royal Society and you see them referring to objects like this, and you think as like head librarian, gosh, where did that go? That'd be marvellous to see that.
It would, and I'm doing a little exercise at the moment, quite coincidentally, in retrieving objects that have been loaned out at various times and no records kept. Everybody forgets. 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, it's time to have a look at that thing and see if it's still around. So more on Charles Darwin's barometer in a future episode.
Okay. And if you've borrowed something from the Royal Society in the last 30 or 40 years and there's a knock on the door, it could be Keith. He wants his stuff back.
I do.
We've got this other branch coming off here with a fabulous mirror attached to the end of it, which is obviously throwing more light into the central barrel here where the prism is.
Quite often when you see contemporary illustrations of instruments like this, you'll see a candle flame there, and clearly the scientist is using it in limited light, and that's throwing an additional light source for the observer.